The black boy's voice trembled as he held up a rusty blue bicycle outside Jefferson Elementary. "By my bike, sir, please. My mama hasn't eaten in 2 days." His small fingers clutched the handlebar, so tight his knuckles turned white. The white teacher, Mr. Cole Anderson, froze near his car keys. He'd seen kids sell candy or clean windshields, but never a bike that looked like it carried their whole life. Cold wind brushed the boy's torn hoodie. "It still rides good, sir. $5, that's all I need." Cole swallowed hard. "Where are your parents?" The boy looked down. "Just me and Mama now." If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening, and the world needs to hear them. Cole's chest tightened. Something in that child's voice hit a nerve he didn't know was still alive. The other teachers walked past, pretending not to see. Cole turned toward his car again, but the boy's eyes followed him, big, hungry, and filled with hope. For a second, he saw himself in those eyes, the same fear he once knew too well. Cole exhaled slowly. "All right, son, tell me your name." The boy whispered, "Jamal." And that one name was about to change everything. Cole watched the boy pedal away, the rusty bike squeaking with every turn. He could have just driven home. But those words, "My mama hasn't eaten in 2 days," echoed in his chest like a curse. He started his old Ford, drove a block, then slammed the brakes. Guilt wouldn't let him go. He turned around and followed Jamal at a distance. Headlights dimmed. The boy's tiny frame cut through the cold dusk until he vanished under an old bridge by the river. Cole parked and stepped out, crunching gravel under his shoes. The air smelled of rain and smoke. He saw Jamal kneel beside a cardboard shelter, whispering softly, "Mama, I got someone. Maybe he'll help." Cole's heart dropped. He wasn't ready for what he was about to see or who he was about to meet. For a moment, he almost turned back, thinking, "This isn't my problem." But something deep inside whispered otherwise. "Maybe it's exactly yours." He took a step forward, toward a truth that would rip open his past. Cole's shoes splashed through mud as he ducked under the bridge. The air was damp, filled with the smell of wet concrete and hopelessness. Jamal knelt beside a woman lying on cardboard, her skin pale, her lips trembling. "Mama, I brought help," he whispered. The woman turned weakly and Cole froze. His breath stopped in his throat. He knew that face, older now, broken, but still hauntingly familiar. "Sarah?" Her eyes widened. "Cole Anderson?" she rasped. His pulse thundered in his ears. It couldn't be. The same woman who disappeared 15 years ago, along with every dollar he'd saved for grad school. The woman who had left him drowning in debt and shame. Jamal looked between them, confused. "You know my mom?" Cole stepped back, voice shaking. "Yeah, son, I knew her a long time ago." Sarah tried to sit up, coughing hard. "I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want you to see me like this." Cole's anger and pity collided in his chest. The woman who'd ruined his life was now lying in filth, with a starving child calling her mother. Fate, it seemed, wasn't done with either of them. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe. Cole stood frozen beneath the bridge, rainwater dripping from the steel above. Sarah's voice cracked through the silence. "I never meant for you to see me like this." He stared at her, the woman who'd stolen his savings, his dream, his entire future. And now here she was, coughing in the cold, her 10-year-old black son begging strangers for food. "You destroyed me," Cole whispered. "You took everything." Sarah looked away. "I was desperate. The man I trusted left me when I got pregnant. I ran with what I had." Jamal clutched his mother's hand, not understanding the history burning between them. Cole's anger should have been enough to walk away, yet it wasn't. He saw the same struggle in her eyes that once lived in his own. He took off his jacket, placed it over her shoulders. "Don't thank me," he said quietly. "I'm not doing this for you." Sarah's lips trembled. "Then why?" Cole glanced at Jamal, small, shivering, still hoping. "For him," he said, "because no child should suffer for a parent's sins." And in that moment, The man she betrayed became the only one willing to save her. The next morning, Cole drove them to a small diner on the edge of town. Jamal's eyes widened at the sight of real food. He devoured the pancakes like he hadn't eaten in weeks, while Sarah barely touched her plate, still coughing into a napkin. Cole watched silently. Every bite the boy took felt like a small victory against the world's cruelty. But as he handed the waitress his last few bills, guilt crept in. He couldn't even afford his own rent. Yet here he was feeding two souls society had forgotten. After breakfast, he took them to a nearby shelter. The worker shook her head. "We're full, sir. No beds left." Cole clenched his jaw. There has to be something. But there wasn't. He stepped outside, the icy wind biting through his shirt. The system had failed him. Again, the mother too sick to work. The boy too young to survive alone. Cole looked at Jamal holding his mother's hand, waiting quietly for someone to decide their fate. He thought of all the times people had walked past him in his worst moments. Not this time. Not again. He took a deep breath. "You're both coming with me." By Monday morning, Sarah and Jamal were sleeping on Cole's pull-out couch. He called in a favor, found her a part-time data entry job, and used his savings to buy the boys' school clothes. It wasn't charity, it was justice. That night, a black car pulled up outside his building. A man in a gray suit stepped out, polished, confident, dangerous. "Mr. Anderson?" he asked. "I'm representing Mr. Carrington." Cole's stomach tightened. He knew that name, the rich developer who once dated Sarah before disappearing. The lawyer's voice was calm but cold. "My client intends to take custody of the child. He can offer a stable home, medical care, education. You can't." Cole's jaw clenched. "Where was your client when that kid was starving under a bridge?" The lawyer adjusted his tie. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Walk away, Mr. Anderson." Cole's hands trembled, but not from fear, from fury. He looked through the window at Jamal, who was drawing dinosaurs at the kitchen table, finally smiling. "I already did the walking away once," Cole said. "Never again." The lawyer frowned. "Then prepare yourself. People like you don't win against men like him." Cole exhaled slowly. "Maybe not, but I'm not doing this for me." He closed the door, sealing his choice. 2 days later, Cole stood in a small courtroom that smelled of old wood and cold fear. Across from him sat Brandon Carrington, the same man whose money had once bought Sarah's silence. Now he was trying to buy her son. The judge flipped through the files, voice stern. "Mr. Carrington offers financial stability. Mr. Anderson, you're a teacher with no legal guardianship. Why are you here?" Cole rose slowly. "Because I saw a hungry child trying to sell his bicycle so his mother could eat. Because the world turns away from people like them, and I refuse to." The courtroom went silent. Brandon's lawyer smirked. A noble speech, but irrelevant. Sarah stood, trembling. "Your Honor, money isn't love. That man abandoned us. This one didn't." The judge studied both sides, then finally said, "Custody remains with the mother. And Mr. Anderson, the court commends your compassion." Sarah wept quietly, holding Jamal's hand. Cole felt something lift off his chest, not victory, but peace. Outside the courthouse, Jamal hugged him tight. "You saved us, Mr. Cole." He smiled softly. "No, kid, you saved me. If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it.